have a bag that I was supposed to bring for you from my house.
Okay.
Basically, it's what an iPad is.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Sandy, could we have a pledge of allegiance, please? You got it up there.
Oh, I should fix
We had
my
to make
glasses.
sure she had it up there. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of Michigan and to the state for which it stands, two beautiful peninsulas, united by a bridge of steel, where equal opportunity and justice to all is our ideal.
Now, Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers,
I'm here.
Spolman,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Mayor Filkins.
Here. And now, we would need a motion to approve the agenda as it's been presented to us.
Mayor Filkins, members of City Council, if you'd be so kind, I would like to add an item under the city manager's report as the last item, which would simply be appointment process for filling of the 4th Ward council member vacancy.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes. Motion carries. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. We do ask if you come forward, if you would please let us know your name, and if you would also write your name and your address down on the piece of the paper for Sandy, that's really helpful. And if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, we would appreciate that. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment and move on to the consent agenda.
Question on, I know we're not supposed to talk about them, but was that the new item we added, is that letter C from the consent agenda? Are we switching that to there?
No, Councilmember Stevens, letter C is still part of the consent agenda item. The item that we're adding is to talk about the appointment process itself for the filling of the vacancy.
Would that be okay to slide that there just for the simple fact of, I know these usually don't have any discussion or unless we discuss it now?
That's up to council as to whether you.
I don't know if that would be the appropriate way to do it, though.
Maybe before, if we need to pull something off,
There's separate agenda items, right? If you want to pull something out of the consent agenda, you can make a motion to do that for
And
discussion.
put it on
That's
the
only way
agenda.
we can talk about it.
So we would have to have a motion to do that?
Correct.
If not, if we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens,
no.
Shippers,
Yes.
Spolman,
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is communications. Sandy, could you do those?
Yes, there's a request to approve the display of a banner from November 23rd to November 30th for Christmas in downtown Cadillac.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request as presented to display a banner on November 23rd to November 30th for Christmas in downtown Cadillac.
Support.
Sandy, could we have the roll call?
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries.
The next request is to approve the closure of Lake Street from Harris to Cass from 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on November 28th for the Toys for Tots 5K.
Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve the closure of Lake Street from Harris to Cass from 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. on November 28th for the Toys for Tot 5K.
Support.
And Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries. And then this evening, we need to talk about an appointment.
That is correct.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
You can go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I was actually going to appoint the city clerk, mayor, members of the city council. It's the election of the mayor pro tem this evening, in accordance with the city charter. It's to be at the first meeting after the regular city election, in which city council will elect one of its council members to serve as mayor pro tem for the term to coincide with the mayor's 2-year term of office. As we've done in the past, we've used, if you will, secret paper ballots that are filled out. Looks like you guys have them in front of you to write a name down. Sandy will then collect them and then read them aloud with the recommendation.
Does it go in here?
No.
No, that was actually.
That's something else. Is that something
Minutes.
we needed to?
Oh, card.
Yeah, I saw that now.
Do we,
That was
I
part
always
of the
hate this.
consent
I
agenda.
always
Just write
hate
it on
this
here and
part.
just pass it.
Oh,
I always hate this part of choosing,
Just something.
I've traditionally put the senior member and,
That's probably a really good idea, just saying.
but, just want that to be known because I know it's, you always have good candidates for it.
We do.
And the last mayors have made it very easy because you never do anything.
oh, I was gonna say, what did I make easy?
You have responsible mayors, they show.
Yeah, I don't think that I ever had to call on you.
Years. So it's either,
It was raining at one of the Arbor Day celebrations, I think, at the Tree Zoo, and the former mayor couldn't make it. Remember that?
So you were out in the
This is
rain.
a number
and
of
what-
years ago.
that was like one of the only times in 6 years.
Pouring.
Okay,
By unanimous vote, Mayor Pro Tem is Councilmember Spelman.
congratulations, yeah.
I've been here long enough.
She's the senior member.
In more ways than one.
We should explain the
Actually-
senior part when we did that.
Well,
Senior, but
only by a few weeks, right?
All right.
Months.
couple months.
Okay, that takes us to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The first item is a communication regarding the Friends of the Library's request for the Friends of the Library book sale signage to be approved. They are asking for 3 yard-type signs to be placed in the city's right-of-way for the 16 days in 2016 that they plan to have their book sales. The dates at this point in time, I think, are still yet to be determined. But the 2-day benefits the library and their sponsors accordingly. They're looking at having them at the South Lake Street and the Chapin Street intersection and by the parking lot entrances. This is a change of how they've done it in the past. Previously, these signs were put in place but on the library's property. We did explain to them that if they were looking for right-of-way placement, it would require city council's consideration accordingly. So, Mike, do we have a date? Do you recall when you worked with them?
No, we don't.
No,
The
okay.
dates are to be determined by the Friends of the Library group that do the book sales.
Okay.
They usually have it during the Festival of the Arts. That's one weekend. But it must be a couple of other times.
But that's
Okay.
all that I have on it. You see a sort of mock-up of what it will look like. And they were asking for approval in advance.
Okay.
I'll make, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from the Friends of the Library for a sign placement during 2016.
Support?
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The city's recently received bids for a new police patrol vehicle, PPV, from three dealerships. All of the dealerships are from Michigan. As a frame of reference, the useful life of a frontline police patrol vehicle is 80,000 miles. Currently, one of the three frontline vehicles and the spare patrol vehicle are well in excess of that. Are we, if I can ask our chief, are we talking about a couple 100,000 miles at this point, or are we still within the 100,000 to 200,000 miles in the vehicles? Do you know offhand?
Primary vehicles?
Yeah, the primary.
Yeah, we're just, we're under 100,000, over 80 on those ones.
Over 80.
Discussion, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're still recovering from that year that we didn't get one.
Gotcha. So the request this evening is to remove one of the high mileage vehicles from service. The recommendation is for Gorno Ford of Woodhaven, Michigan, in the amount of $25,594. Funds are available in the general fund. There is a slight difference. Actually, excuse me. They are the lowest bidder of the three.
And this is in the budget.
Yes.
Yes.
When's the last time we bought a police vehicle?
Last year?
What was the year that we missed?
A couple years ago, it was,
Maybe 12. I think we have a 13, 14, and 15, and this will be a 16. So I think it was 12.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a police patrol vehicle from Gorno Ford of Woodhaven, Michigan, in the amount of $25,594.
Support?
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item we had received from Wexford County. It's a request dealing with a piece of property located at 27 River Street. John, do we have an overhead by chance, or is it just the picture in the packet?
just the pictures in the
Okay, just pictures in the packet. If you were to refer back to the City Council packet, it has a picture of the property located off of River Street. It's a former Mitchell Corps facility. It's an industrial use building that's in a poor state of repair. There are a host of reasons that we put together in our packet as to why the city shouldn't accept this, but rather let this go back up for auction. If there's questions, I could try to address them. John can try to address them. John, do you have any specific salient points you wanted to make on this item?
Just that we don't have anybody that has given us tangible reason to believe they would be interested in taking on that building. So it would be anticipated that it would be a hard problem to deal with if we were to accept it, and there doesn't seem to be anybody in line to offer to work with us on putting that back into a productive use. Plus, it's a building that would be hard pressed to be used well for industrial purposes because it's sandwiched right in the middle of a single-family neighborhood. It's almost a building that cries out for either being taken down or rehabbed into some form of residential use just because of the place that it's located.
And so again, the staff recommendation this evening is that we thank the Wexford County for their offer. A copy of the correspondence we had received from the county, along with a copy of statute that requires that they offer it to the city, is included in the council packet for reference. If we had a strong commitment from a developer or somebody that was willing to move immediately on redeveloping that parcel, perhaps we would be asking the city council to actually accept this property so we could try to negotiate a land transference of sorts. But that is not the case as we sit here this evening, and we believe it would be more productive for the county to continue down the path of auctioning it off with other properties that they may have that failed to sell initially.
So really, if the county puts it up for bid and there isn't any interest in it, then that stays with the county? Or what happens at that point if they put it up for bid and
And it doesn't sell again? I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if it comes back to the city for another opportunity to look at taking, or if it stays with them. I don't know the answer to that, Councilmember. I will remind City Council that the last time we had this opportunity, we actually did accept the property, and that's the open space adjacent to the Clam River Greenway off of Haynes Street. And since accepting it, just as a FYI, we have done some clearing, and we did do a baseline and a phase 2 environmental
Looks
study.
nice, yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to send a letter of objection to Wexford County regarding the receipt of property at 207 East River Street.
Support.
Can we have a roll call, Sandy?
Councilmember Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
yes.
Shippers,
Yes?
Mayor Folkins.
Yes, motion carries.
It's unfortunate that the county has to deal with the headache.
I know.
It happens all over, I think, a lot of communities.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item, I'm going to introduce Chief Golnick. If he can come up, or you can use the mic there, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Just take a second, probably.
Okay. And talk to us a little bit about the agreement between the City of Cadillac Police Department and the Traverse Bay Child Advocacy Center.
Traverse Bay Child Advocacy Center is a center that's developed and funded from the Victims' Rights Compensation Fund, and it is to assist law enforcement and Department of Human Services personnel in the investigation of child abuse and child sexual assault cases. They have a full-time forensic interviewer on staff and counseling services, and we have utilized their services many, many times in the past. They've asked to reach out, or they've reached out and asked to formalize agreements with all Wexford County law enforcement agencies so we can become formal partners with them. What does that do for us? Really, there's to be no change on our end. They've never denied us services, and they'll always continue to offer us services. By having a formal partnership in place to where they can say that they provide services to our law enforcement agency for those types of investigations, it increases the likelihood that they can receive grants and other funding opportunities outside of us. So it wouldn't change anything in services-wise. It won't cost us anything. It's merely a formal agreement that shows that they are in partnership with them. We use their services, and then they can use our counts, so to speak, our officer counts and our victim counts, to assist them in future funding for what they do. That's the quick version.
We don't have another organization. They're basically doing
We're
that
on an island
entirely, aren't
here.
they?
Yeah, we've bounced back and forth between this advocacy center and the Midland Advocacy Center. Both have offered us services in the past. Obviously, Traverse City is twice as close. It requires less resources and time away for officers of travel time to utilize it. They're just, all of them, the ones all over the state, they're just tremendous. These people are just something. I mean, they have just these tremendous hearts, and they're all into their work, and it really, I don't know how we could do our work without it. We've tried, we'd certainly do a better job at it without question, because they're more trained, they're more prepared, and they're really suited for interviewing those victims and helping us get the necessary statements and evidence in those sensitive cases.
It's a much-needed service.
Do they also, beyond the investigation, is their services also include
Yes,
the?
because then they offer the victim services, and they'll offer victim services during court proceedings and post, and they offer counseling services, and it could literally see the person through their entire childhood into adulthood as they deal with the effects of the abuse.
Yeah, what would we do with, like you said, what would we do without that?
Yeah, you know,
That's a
years
big-
ago, we did it without that, and it wasn't nearly as good. So, you know, the police just don't have the ability to create that environment and that necessary skill set sometimes that's required with those sensitive types of investigations, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the authorization of the agreement between the Cadillac Police Department and the Traverse Bay Children's Advocacy Center.
Support?
Sandy, could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins?
Yes, motion carries.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is the added-in item that we added in the beginning of the meeting, which is with respect to the appointment process for the filling of the Fourth Ward Council member vacancy seat. As members of council all realize, our Fourth Ward Council member Douglas Melma has resigned. We do have a vacancy to fill. The recommendation will be to post the application on our website effective tomorrow morning, have hard copies available for any walk-ins, and as well as to put a news release out. Obviously, only members that reside, citizens that reside within the Fourth Ward can apply to be appointed by the City Council to then fill the vacancy until such time that the remainder of the term is filled permanently through an election of the city. The staff will receive applications here at City Hall, as we do for any of our board and commission vacancies that we have. With respect to going through with interviews and setting a date and time for that, we first need to obviously see how many applications we actually receive, and then perhaps schedule a special meeting accordingly to work through them. I would like to have City Council make an appointment at the December 7th meeting, if at all possible. That's approximately, I think, 3 weeks or so from now. And the thought was to have the applications out there for a week and a day. So have them, actually for a week, because they'll be available tomorrow, and have them due again by 5 o'clock Tuesday of the following week.
Have them due by the 24th.
Yep.
And then we would have the following week to interview.
How do interviews take place? Is there,
It would be presumably it would be a special meeting of the City Council, no different than what we did with respect to filling the position on the CWTA board. But I think, I think the time frame might need to be a little bit flexible depending upon how many applications we receive. I don't know whether we're going to receive any. I don't know if we're going to receive one or 20, and I think we just need to, gauge how that process evolves based upon the level of interest and based upon how many we receive. If it's the desire of this City Council to interview everybody, even if you narrow it down to a 10 or 15-minute interview, if you have a whole lot of people, it could be a lot of time. So,
because I'm pretty sure there are lots of people clamoring to do this job right now.
Well, but I do believe that we should interview everyone who does
I
apply.
agree.
So,
I'd like to set a date for a special meeting, look at our calendars that week of, it starts with November 30th. And get something on our calendar, and just in case.
So we know
I
that.
needed my phone here.
Oh, we have a calendar.
I know,
I'm
but
sorry.
what's on my calendar?
I like the idea of having an open process with this and having, taking applications.
do you want to look at maybe the 3rd?
The what?
December 3rd?
Yeah, December 3rd, that's that week. It's Thursday. Given that we're closed the following Thursday and Friday for the Thanksgiving holiday. We're going to need some, depending upon the volume, again, we have no idea what we're looking at. We're going to need some time to create the agenda, get the things out there, the applications duplicated and so forth. I'm just thinking a few days would be helpful.
Right, with the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll probably work for me.
I think we can say yeah.
That works for me.
And are we thinking about a 6 o'clock timeframe?
Well, I think depending on how many applicants
Okay.
we get, we might
I
want to.
could go with 5 on that
Yeah,
day.
I could too. Could
Okay.
you?
Never.
Yeah,
Can you go at 5, do you know?
go a little bit earlier.
I think so. I left my phone in my car with my life on it, but I'm thinking that that's probably okay. My shows don't start till the following week.
Okay.
So more for those people that are interested, they would serve until, with it being 2 years left, they would serve until the next election.
Correct. Correct.
And then at that point, that's immediate, whoever wins, they immediately take over after that election? Is that how, if I recall?
Or does it go till the January, like with other
that's a
elections?
good
That is a
question.
good question.
I mean, the appointed person
Does the-
Whoever wins the
yeah.
election would start right away.
So right away.
until the December 2017, I
Okay.
think.
Whomever wins the election, as I understand, wins the election to fill the remainder of the term.
Probably effective immediately.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So-
And then, okay.
So
And then
someone-
and then if they were still interested, they'd have to run again a
To
couple
keep
years
that
later.
seat on the same cycle as we have been on.
Right, right. Yeah, that seat will be up
In
in
the
its
next-
normal time, right?
Two-year election.
So in reality, the appointment could be just a few months,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so they know that.
Okay.
Wait a minute, the appointment could be just a few months?
If somebody gets appointed
Uh-huh.
and chooses either to, one, not run when the election occurs, or chooses, or they run and they lose, they may only be on the council for a few months.
Given in March, if the March is
Right.
the citywide election.
Okay, so it's not to fill the term for the duration of the term, just till the next election?
That's, see,
Oh,
that's why
I
I
get
wanted
it.
that explained to the public.
Good, good, because that
We
was,
understood
that's what I
that.
thought, and then was like, for the rest of the term.
And then
Okay.
at the next election, it goes to the end of the current 2 or 4-year term.
Okay, okay,
And that's per the charter.
Yes.
okay, good.
Okay, so our city clerk will get notices out
Okay.
accordingly. If there is a situation where we don't have any applications received, we'll obviously
Then we
advise
need
We'll
to
have some.
appoint.
council.
We'll have to drag someone in here.
In the audience.
So-
Appoint.
Okay.
Okay.
So we don't need any motion on that or anything, the process.
No, we got it.
Just
It's all good.
informative.
As long as we appoint within 30 days.
Okay.
Okay, so this evening, we have, under adoption of ordinances and resolutions, we have
Yes.
an adoption of a resolution.
We do, Mayor and members of the City Council. The first one item is adoption of a resolution that'll set a public hearing for December 7th, 2015. This is to consider a request from Spencer Plastics for an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate in the amount of $812,714. This is only for real property at this time. You are unable to obtain an IFT or an industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for personal property because personal property taxes no longer exist for business. And so in accordance with the application, this is for real property. Things, as I understand, are going gangbusters at the company. They're looking at expanding their footprint and acquiring or building out a larger space than where they're currently at. It's going to help them retain 27 positions as well as add 5 new positions to the company, which is also something that we very much like to see, especially the new job growth. So, again, this evening, we're asking to set the public hearing for December 7th.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented, which also sets a public hearing for December 7th regarding the application for the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate for Spencer Plastics Incorporated for real property located at 2300 Schwa Street, Cadillac, Michigan. After I said
Right,
that,
we
I
knew
was
what you
like,
meant.
yes. Kind of like a walk.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes.
Is that right, that the public hearing's on the next meeting? I was thinking it was 2 meetings for some reason. Okay.
So the motion carries.
The next item, Mayor, members of the City Council, is a resolution regarding a property line adjustment request. This item was in front of the Planning Commission, was approved for recommendation to the council for approval as well by the Planning Commission. Mike Coy is here this evening. He gave a very long presentation at the Planning Commission, and I'm being sarcastic, because we were joking about that before. But he is here this evening to run us through, if you could, a little bit about what the request is and how it was approved. So,
From the resolution, the request is basically described as a property line adjustment, and it's basically one neighbor selling a sliver of property to an abutting neighbor. Because these are platted lots, that's why it's required to first go before the Planning Commission, get a recommendation, and then going to council.
just want to make sure.
Marcus,
the microphone-
yeah, I don't know that the people at home could hear you from over there, so if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Sorry, Mike.
Basically, the resolution, the recommendation of council had the full support of the Planning Commission. And the property line adjustment is basically a sale of a sliver of land from one property owner to the abutting property owner. Because these are platted lots, that's why it goes through this process versus just being approved by a zoning administrator. And the key criteria is that the 2 neighbors, the lots, meet all of the criteria for the district, which is an R1 district, which it does. And that's kind of it in a nutshell. You've got, I think, a GIS. You may have a GIS of the property.
We do.
If you look at that, when I did that, I included a blue line. And that's
It's in black and
basically-
white. Sorry.
Online, it's not.
There
It's
is-
the one by the road.
And that's basically where, for example, the water line runs from the water line
It's
to
right
the
here.
woman's house. And I included that because, you know, that kind of had to do
That's
with
blue on the other.
the way they did basically their requested, sale of the silver.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
The only thing, I know that neither of the owners are here, but is anybody in the crowd on behalf of them? Didn't think so.
You are.
You are. Just wanted to make sure if there was, they didn't have something to add.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution
Thank you,
to allow for the property line adjustment request for the 2 parties as presented.
Support.
I really like the way it's drawn out, actually, and the way they've done that.
Could we have a roll call, Sandy?
Councilmember Spelman,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The next item is a request from the Wexford County Historical Society with respect to the city adopting a local governing body resolution for a charitable gaming license. The city council has done this in the past for other groups. The resolution is a template that they received from the state that acknowledges that they are a charitable organization. Your packet does include a copy of their not-for-profit status certificate. The Historic Society is going to be before the City Council later this fall as they're looking at putting together, as I understand, a special event of sorts, and they'll be here requesting, I believe, possibly a street closure and also informing us as to the event itself. But their request from us today is simply to acknowledge that they are not-for-profit status so that they can apply for their raffle license.
I'll make a motion to adopt the local governing body resolution for charitable gaming license for the Wexford County Historical Society.
Support?
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Shippers?
Yes?
Bowman?
Yes.
Mayor Folkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item is the request for the adoption of a resolution that amends our General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2016. Owen, if you would mind reading the communication?
Sure. This is just a simple one-item amendment request, and it's related to the building inspection activities. These activities we started, I think the date was like July 21st, so it was after the fiscal year started. Part of the paperwork that we had submitted to the state estimated about a $50,000 budget between all the different types of permits we issued. So back in October on the financial update, it provided just a chart, if you happen to see it, that we had issued about 58 permits for $6,800 in revenue as of September 30th. So the $50,000 estimate will probably be sufficient. It's we're not probably taking advantage of the highest permitting months, I wouldn't think, starting until July. But the paperwork, again, that we submitted to the state said we estimated 50. So we're asking for, in terms of the budget, the $50,000 in permit fees. And incidentally, we are tracking those separate between types of fees just for our own benefit. Getting back to my paperwork here. And then the expenditure side of the amendment will just appropriate funds primarily for the contract that we have. And then just a small amount of other items that I can't see right now because it won't open. Do you have that paper? I apologize for that. So the administration is just the internal costs of our employee who's monitoring and facilitating all the, taking the requests at the counter and things like that. So pretty simple.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution amending the General Appropriations Act for fiscal year 2016 as presented.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Bowman?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Mayor Folkins?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, then in our packets this evening, we do have the minutes of boards and commissions. We have the minutes of the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting that was held on the 21st of May, the minutes of the Wexford County Airport Authority, which was held on October 14th, the minutes of the Planning Commission that was held on September 28th, and then those minutes from the Courthouse Hill Historic District Commission from a meeting that was held on October 12th. At this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor again for public comment. Again, if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, and when you come to the podium, if you'd let us know your name, and then if you would write down your address, we would greatly appreciate it.
Council members, Harry Altman Boone. End of the last meeting, I said I wasn't going to put anything out. I've changed my mind. Well, that means I ain't getting seen right. But anyhow, things have changed. And for Mike, I'm not going to apologize, but I thank you because I kind of picked on you a little bit here and that was just to keep my redneck friends talking to me. Otherwise they think I'm with 40 U's. He's got to hide like a rhinoceros, you know. Yeah. But anyhow, I'm going to quit. I'll see how this all plays out.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, we'll go ahead and close public comment for this evening. And Harry almost stole a pen. But we'll go ahead with the good of the order this evening, and we'll start with Councilmember Shippers.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to the two who, based on the election results, congratulations to both of you on a good campaign and your victories. Second of all, the Youth Council is meeting this Wednesday at 4 o'clock in these chambers. We've received another application that, if you're watching, I'll be in touch with you. We're supposed to do that this week, but things have come up where that can't be till next week. So, and if you are a youth interested in becoming a member of Youth Council, it's very easy. There are applications at the high school desk, and there are applications here at the city, and there are applications online. And all you have to do is fill it out and pretty much come join us. We'll meet with you and talk to you a little bit, and the Youth Council is doing some pretty wonderful things. We finished with the Project Sticker Shock with the help of Officer Rourke, and it just felt really good. All the kids were just really thrilled to have accomplished something in the amount of time they've been here. So that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Spillman.
I'm wondering if there is any update on the cleanup efforts for the Mitchell Corporation. I think that's the name of the building that was burned and the rubble remains. And then I have another question, and you don't need to answer me tonight, Marcus, if you don't have the information, because it's really kind of out of the blue, I think. But you can do some homework on it and get back with us. I'm remembering an education fund that was set up after the McCurdy-Wotilla Porteous settlement. Mm-hmm. And I believe it sits at the Cadillac Area Community Foundation. Mm. It sits here?
We used it a
few
years ago. It's been extinguished.
Oh, so that's the update. It's gone? Mm-hmm. Oh. I wondered what the status of it was, how much money was left in it, and okay.
All right.
So I'll put that out of my head. That went fast. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Stevens.
Two quick things since our last meeting, and I know that the mayor attended it. There was a amazing human trafficking event that took place here in Cadillac. Unbelievable. They had over 100 people on a waiting list, and it was from different agencies. They had 2 days of it. The first day was individuals from different agencies and groups to kind of get a better understanding of human trafficking and how it's doing locally. And then the second day included and incorporated a lot of the Christian faith communities and how they can participate and how they can play in this. And I just wanted to give a little echo of way to go to that group that put it on. One of the things I actually do for the Attorney General is attend these throughout the state, and this has been the largest one, and by far. And they had 100+ waiting list on each day just because of the size of the room. And it's something that we take for granted, but locally a lot of the agencies have already come across it with human trafficking, and it was a good way to get those incorporated and hopefully through time assist everybody from the police departments to other agencies to help that issue. But most people don't realize Michigan is the second highest state in the country for human trafficking, and every zip code has been affected by it. And the more awareness, hopefully it'll help prevent that from happening. So just wanted to pass that on, and as I mentioned, I know the mayor attended that as well, and quite a few from the different groups. On a second note, what I was trying to do through the consent agenda, the reason of pulling that out was there had been some questions of what we were doing, just to let the public know that what we were doing was a charter responsibility. I questioned that accepting his resignation at Councilmember Melama's in the consent agenda, because usually that's routine things that we have like minutes, but to make sure I had been called on that this week and people not realizing that this was a step that's required by our charter to do this. They were questioning why we would be bringing this up. And so I was trying to hopefully get that out to the public. That step is a requirement for us to accept it before we can move on. With that, I did want to thank him. I know that may not happen much today, but at least to give him the thanks for his 6 years, almost 6 years of service to the city, and for some of the programs that he brought, especially his first couple years, that job creation plan and the regional economic plan, and his efforts of trying to get an innovation center here, which probably will not proceed with that, but his efforts of doing that, I want to just thank him. I don't think people understand sometimes the amount of time that a council member puts in, not just at the meetings, but outside of the meetings. And sometimes he put a lot of time in serving on different roles with the manufacturing and such, and I'm going to miss that, and I think our community there'll be a void in those areas where he participated on behalf of the city. So I wanted to give him and his family. The other thing here is for spouses and families that put up with all of you being gone, but to thank his wife as well and family for sacrificing hours so that people like us and him could participate on behalf of the city. Thank you.
You're welcome. Marcus?
Thank you. Actually, along the sort of same coattails as Councilmember Stevens, I wish to thank Councilmember Stevens and Doug Malma also for their years of service. It was a mix-up that they were not recognized at our staff at our staff held volunteer appreciation luncheon. Staff put on an annual basis a volunteer appreciation luncheon. Councilmember Shippers also, I believe, was left out of that recognition. And looking back, and it was unbeknownst to myself and members of my staff, we actually do recognize, or we had previously recognized our council members every 5 years of service at the function. And looking forward, I would like to make an annual tribute to members of council at the last calendar meeting of the year for any members of council that have hit a 5-year milestone or any denomination thereof. And certainly there are council members, such as Councilmember Stevens, who's served on other boards in an official capacity, such as Board of Review, that we would definitely like to continue to recognize and to do so as a part of that meeting. And so it was a simple oversight on our part. I do apologize, and we're going to look at making it right and starting this year having that recognition in a couple of meetings from now. Wanted to also mention that there is the upcoming tree lighting ceremony that'll be here in downtown Cadillac across from the Rotary Pavilion. That's the day after Thanksgiving, and to please visit the Visitors Bureau's website or contact them for information on the event. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, and I really don't have anything additional to add this evening that other council members have already covered. So we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the closed session.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. At this time, I would like to request that we adjourn to a closed session to discuss pending civil litigation in the case of City of Cadillac v. Michelet Corp., Wexford County Circuit Court Case Number 14-25602-CH, to discuss the purchase of real property and discuss written confidential legal opinions with the city attorney. Would also like to invite Jeffrey Dietland, our Director of Utilities, accordingly to attend part of the session.
Is there, I saw on the email that came out on the, the Cadillac report, it listed off the 2 topics of the legal opinion. And I know we've had this discussion in the past, but I saw those 2 topics and was trying to think what would be detrimental to the city's operations to list those in the motion of what are legal opinions that were brought in and why they couldn't be listed so the public has a understanding of what we're going in under. I know we've had this talk before. The good news for you is you don't have the 2/3 issue anymore that we had before, but
Well, I was just waiting, and I think that Mr. Holman probably could answer the question.
Well, the nature of the discussion is such that has to do with the legal opinions being provided. So the very nature of the discussion, I have always contended, is subject to attorney-client privilege as well. So the council or members of the council may disagree with that, but it's not my privilege to waive. So from that perspective, the very nature of my legal advice or subject matter is confidential in and of itself.
Right, and it would be the council's, that's one of the roles of the council, is to look at the public good out of this. And, you know, I go back, when we're generic, like our last meeting, if you looked at the closed session, we go under 4 topics, we come out and we approve the direction of one of those topics, but it's not even listed. No one knows what we approved, even what topic, and a year and 1 day later, those minutes and everything is gone. There's just no record. You know, of it, when we're so generic, we don't have a clue. The public doesn't have an idea, and later on, following the minutes, there's no recapping of what we're approving. So I'm just putting that on the record. I mean, been for that open, transparent government. The good news for you today is usually with 5 members, it required 4, but now with 4, you only need 3. So that's where I stand on that.
We do need all 4, is that correct?
That's right.
Yep.
Why is that?
Because it's 2/3 of the total membership, and just because you have a vacancy doesn't eliminate that process. Now, it could affect it, I suppose, if you had less than a quorum, but
So, and we don't even know what parts of the Open Meetings Act we're going under. Is it going under one of the parts that only requires a simple majority?
we do know which provision of the Open Meetings Act we are adjourning under. It is Section 8H. It's always been Section 8H for written confidential legal opinions. Now, there are other sections that apply as well, like to discuss the purchase of real property.
Right.
And the civil litigation exemption to discuss trial or settlement strategy. And that is on the Mish Lake, and that case is specifically set forth in the motion.
So we're on 8H is the legal opinion section?
I believe that that's correct.
And I'm just looking at council, did we see those 2 topics, what harm does that bring to the city to list
I don't know where
that?
you saw the 2 topics, Councilmember Stevens. Sorry.
It was in the email that was attached for our
Friday's
Cadillac report. I don't know if it was in the Cadillac report. If it was, then
I'm
it's...
looking at it right now and trying to think where.
Yeah, it's not in
is
the
it?
Cadillac report.
So in the email attachment, it lists the 2 topics. And
I think one of the ways that we got around this and felt more comfortable before, is that we agreed on what we could say when we came out of closed session, instead of just saying that, we wanted to direct the attorney to do what we discussed. We provided more information at that time.
but I don't know if you see the 2 lists, but how, usually that's a decision of our council if that's detrimental for the public to know, those 2 topics. I don't see in any fashion how it would be detrimental to have those topics a part of it and just make it very clean.
Well, one of those topics, depending on what the council ultimately decides, could lead to litigation. So I disagree that it has no effect. I think it does have an effect. Now, it may not, but that's part of the reason why we're going into closed session to discuss the legal issues involved.
That one I could see, especially if we had a section that was listed with the motion, but the other section is that one's a very issue for the public. I don't see the harm in putting that in there. I know I shouldn't even be directing, because you're right. He's the attorney, he's going to direct us to do that, but now it comes to the council. He's doing what his job is, but our job is to, by the Open Meetings Act, is decide if there's any detrimental aspect to that.
No, well, that's not completely right.
I'm sure it is.
Well, under the Open Meetings Act, you can go into closed session to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. That's under Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act. So when we talk about what material is exempt by a state or federal statute, it is confidential written legal advice with the city attorney. That's what makes it exempt from disclosure or discussion under the Open Meetings Act.
But the topic, is it correct that we have a decision as a council to make if the topic is detrimental for the public to have that knowledge?
No. The issue is whether or not you wanted to waive privilege with respect to the discussion, the topic of the discussion. If you waive the privilege, then it's no longer exempt from state or federal law.
If we have You're saying we don't have an authority to choose to list the topic of that legal opinion?
No, that's not what I said. What I said was the council has the authority to waive the privilege with respect to attorney-client privileged material, including the topic for discussion. Again, not knowing how the council may ultimately view the information or discussions with the city attorney, I can't, except with respect to the subject matter, I would tell you, don't waive the privilege until we've had an opportunity to discuss the legal issues involved. If you then want to talk about it, you can waive the privilege.
And do so publicly thereafter.
Yes.
Right.
So this,
Would that, I'm sorry, were you gonna, would it, if when we come out?
no, in the
We've
past,
done
we
that.
put the reason that, we put the section that it's going, and it sounds like it's 8H, and it's a legal opinion with you said 8H, I believe. One topic I can understand, but the other one, I see no reason why that's going to be harmful for the public to know why we're going into closed session. We get into this, I've been there before. We go in without a topic, we come out and give a generic vote. We don't know ourselves later. In a year and 1 day, when those records are gone, we have no knowledge of what that recommendation, which topic it was for. It's just, and you're definite that it requires still 4, even though we now have a 4-member board. The first
What
two
if,
topics are perfect.
what if when we come out, after we have the closed session discussion, what if when we come out, we're more specific? And not just if we're able at that point, without causing harm to the city, if we, then instead of just saying take the recommendation, we could give more information at that point to have it on record.
And I think that that's, to Councilmember Spolman's point, I think that when we had this concern many months ago, that's what we decided to do. You know, if you have a concern about one of the topics, then, you know, I don't want to waive attorney-client privilege, but it's certainly something we can talk about when we're in closed session, and then as a council, talk about what we share when we come out.
The thing is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But we also, that's fine if we're going to come out and talk about it, but if it's going to be determined that it's not, I personally can't see how this,
Right, and
in any way.
I agree with you. It needs to be talked about.
then I'll put the trust that we're going to do that after.
Okay. I appreciate that.
And then we'll see
Yep.
if we're going to make that discussion.
Right.
Thank you. We do need I think
A
there's a motion.
motion? Is there a motion? No, there is not a motion yet.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn to closed session. Do I have to read the whole thing, or can I say for the reasons stated?
You can, I already stated all of them, so you can.
For the reasons stated.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes?
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries. Are you ready? Okay.
I'll make a motion to return to open session.
Support?
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes?
Spolman,
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. A couple of things to report out this evening with respect to the closed session that we just had. One is with regard to the filling of the vacancy of the 4th Ward Council member seat. We do believe that there will be an election of sorts in March, likely on the same date and time as the presidential primary election, where we'll be filling this 4th Ward Council member vacancy for the remainder of the term, which will be approximately 2 years in time. There are still several issues that need to be figured out before we can absolutely confirm that it'll be on that date, but I do anticipate us knowing sometime in the very near future, and we'll be publicizing that accordingly. Likewise, I expect that at your next meeting, whether it's at your special meeting or at your regular meeting, we'll be asking the City Council for a resolution accordingly to set the date for the election. So, additionally, it would be appropriate at this time for the City Council to consider a motion to approve the resolution that approves the agreement to buy and sell real estate at East 44 Road in Cadillac, Michigan. This is regarding the acquisition of property for our new city wellfield site.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers,
Yes.
Spelman,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
And lastly, Mayor, members of the City Council, it would be appropriate for a motion to accept the city attorney's opinions, the city attorney opinions as discussed in closed session this evening. Did I say that correctly? City attorney opinions and recommendations as discussed in closed session.
Is there more than one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Let's do them.
Do you need to clarify that? Or did I not say that?
No, I'm all right.
I think we're with you now. Everybody's a little tired, but I think we remember what that was. Okay.
I will make that motion as well.
Do you remember what it was? Yeah.
Do I need to be
Need a
more
second.
specific?
I'm sorry?
Is this both on?
Yes, there's
two
on
things?
the remaining two opinions.
Okay.
He is one. And the other one is Michalik.
Right.
Right.
Okay, how about if I make a motion to
That's right.
accept the attorney's opinion on the Lake?
The motion should, let's deal with one at a time.
Yes, please.
Let's deal with Michalik. The motion would be to direct the city attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session.
That's what I meant.
That's what I meant also.
Support, and that was on the mission.
Lake.
Yes.
Correct.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spelman,
Yes.
Stevens.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes?
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
And then what about the other one?
The final one would be to accept the recommendation of the city attorney as discussed in closed session with respect to the legal opinion.
Okay, I'll make that motion too.
It's
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes?
Spelman,
Yes.
Mayor Folkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay.
And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting.